Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, it's wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me. I need to put a wee fence up here to stop my chickens from going down to the swimming pool and falling in it. So it's just going to be a temporary fence. And all I've done is I've gone down to the salvage yard and I bought a few pieces of scrap fencing, which I'm going to be trying to put together. As I said, I got all my pieces from the scrapyard. Now, this particular fence, or should I say gate, this part here is too short for me to actually secure into the ground. So what I've done is I've just taken one of these large fencing posts and I've pushed it up inside there so that I've got about 30 centimeters that'll be dug into the ground. I'm going to be using mending plates and self-tapping metal screws for this, and I'm just using the 10G by 12mm screws. Even though I'm using self-tapping screws, it's still extremely hard to get through, so I'm just pre-drilling all the holes with my drill. I've got my mending plate on, so I've got one at the top and there's one at the bottom, and now I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side. I've got both sides done and I used an impact driver to do the screws. I'm using an existing fence post to attach my fencing to, so I'm just lining it up like that, and then I'm going to mark where I want to drill to put my brackets in. Now I'm just using these little 90-degree brackets, and I'll be placing one at the top and of course one way down at the bottom. I've marked the height that I need, and I'm going to be placing my L bracket just there so that I can balance the fence onto that. So I'm just going to screw that in so long. For myself personally, because this is old wood, I like to pre-drill the holes and just make sure that when you're putting your bracket on that it's actually level. I'm taking one of the L-shaped brackets and I'm placing it on top of the fence, and I'm just marking where I'm going to be drilling. So when it comes time to attach the fence to the post, I've got the drill holes so I know exactly where they're going to go through the bracket. Sure that you've got it flush with the back here. That's going to be going against the post. Once you've drilled the first hole, take your bracket and just make sure that it is lining up. So that's pretty perfect. I can see it's gone all the way through, so I know that's exactly where my screw is going to go in. And then drill your next hole and check once again before you attach this to the post. So both my holes are pretty good, quite happy with that, and now I'm going to attach this piece to the post. Once you put your bracket on, then make sure that it all lines up, so I'm pretty happy with that. So when it comes time to attaching that to that post, this all will be secured. For the bottom one, because I've got nowhere to drill the holes into, I'm just going to be placing one. I've marked the line just there, and I'm going to be placing one at the bottom to just support it, so it's going to be the L's going in the opposite direction. As I said, for the bottom one, I'm going to be placing it underneath like that, just so that it is supporting it like that. So I've got it placed on just like that. I've just balanced my fence on a brick so that I know where I'm going to be digging the hole for the post. So I need a post to go. My post is that big, so I'm going to be putting the post here like that, and then I'm digging the hole for it. I've got my post lined up where I want it, and then I'm going to be digging that cleared section out, and I'm going to be using quickset concrete. You can use post mix if you want, they do the same job, but I'm using the quickset for these ones. Once the post is set, I'm going to be using the exact same method that I used on the other side to attach it to that post by using the L brackets in the top here and in the bottom as well. Because my brackets that I'm going to be using, my screws are too small when they go in like that, I'm going to be filling the holes up with hot glue. So that the screws have got something to grip onto when I attach the fence. I've got all my holes dug, and now I'm going to be connecting the fence to that post over there, and then this post I'm connecting here so that this fence can hold it upright when I pour the cement in there. I've put wires onto this one just to hold it in place while I'm setting the posts. I filled the hole with water and I've just poured all the cement in, so there's just a little bit of water left at the top because you've got to make sure that the hole is wet. And now I'm going to wait 2 hours before I'm going to work with the fencing on these ones. I'm going to be making my own latch for my gate, so I'm using this very thick wire, and this one is a 2.5mm thick wire, and I've got some spare piping that comes from installing fridge filters and things like that, so they normally come with a little connection like that, which I won't be using, but I'm going to be using that piping. And then I've got a thin piece of piping which is really old that I've taken from my fish tanks, which I'll be using as well. I've cut 1 meter of the thick wire, and now I'm just going to take the wire and I'm going to thread it through the tube like that. I'm just measuring the top of the gate like that with the wire, so I'm going to be threading the piping onto the wire and leaving the small section like that sticking out without any covering on it. So I've cut my piping 10 centimeters shorter than the wire. I've got my wire through my piping, so you should have 2 ends that look the same. I've just balanced my piece of piping on top of the fence so I can get the center point, and now I'm just going to bend the sides down like that. So I've got it bent over the fence like that, and now I'm going to be going down about 5 centimeters there, and I'm going to be bending it at a right angle going to the left on this side, and if you turn to go on the other side, I'm bending it to go to the right. So my piece looks like that, and now I'm going to be going to the end of the piece and I'm bending it up the same distance, which is about 5 centimeters. This side I'm marking in 5 centimeters on the end here so that I've got the small piece of wire sticking out. So I'm going to be bending this upright so that it makes like a little box. I folded my piece up like that, and I've got the metal piece sticking out. So the latch is sitting on the gate like that, and now we're going to just take the little piece of plastic and thread those 2 wires through it. I put the wire in the tube from the one side, and now I'm taking this one and I'm going to slide it in that way as well. Now I've made one of them just a slight bit longer than the other side, so that when the wires cross over, the longer one comes in the outside and the shorter one is going on the inside. I've got the wires in the tube, so my lock is now looking like that, so all I have to do is just lift the one side up and then it operates like that. I'll be fixing it to the fence. For the remainder part of the fence I'm going to be using this chicken netting, and the height of my fencing is 1 meter 20 and this one is only 90 centimeters high, so I'm going to have to join them together. For myself, I like to take double the length of what I need and then fold it over itself so that I can start joining it here, and then once it's all joined, then I just cut it down the side. To join my fencing together, I've just, as I said, folded it over, And all I do is I take a small pair of pliers and I put it through the hole, and I just twist the wires around each other like that. And then squash them closed. And then you just go along and do all of it like that. It makes it quite nice and firm. So when you pull it apart, it doesn't pull apart. Every few inches, I'm just tying it off with my 0.9 millimeter wire. And then just closing it off so that it doesn't hurt anybody. So they're all like little roses. I know this is very, very difficult to see, but I've opened it out and now I have folded it over on the length so that I can cut the excess off that I don't need. I'm just using aviation shears to cut through because it cuts quite nicely. I'm using this 2mm galvanized tie wire, and I'm going to be cutting 2 pieces at 1.2 meters because that's the height of my fence. Before I cut it, I put a little loop on just like that, and now I'm going to cut it, and I'm leaving 5 centimeters extra for that loop. This step is actually optional. I'm doing this because I am attaching this fencing to a aluminium post. So what I've done is I've just encased the wire into the chicken wire, and then I'm just securing it using the over. So threading it through and just winding it around each little piece. I've got the piece like this, and all I'm doing is going and threading it through. Through the hole like that, and then just pulling it around. And just winding it until it's finished. I'm trying to use whatever existing structures that I've got to attach posts to. So the first one I'm putting on is a paling to my filter box. To do the remainder of the fencing using the chicken wire, I'm using this 2mm galvanized tie wire, and I've got quite a steep thing to go down, so I am starting off on this post and then going to the next one, and then I'll be going down the hill to the post that's just down there. I've got my wires all the way down to the bottom, and now we're going to attach the fencing to this. I'm going to be using a 0.9mm wire to attach the piece of fencing that we prepared earlier. When tying my fence off, just so that I've got no sharp edges, I like to take a round nose pliers and just do a little curl like that so that it's nice and tight and neat, so it's not going to scratch anybody. I'm doing all of them the same. Where I'm not attaching the fence in places, what I'm doing is I'm taking a large piece of wire and just wrapping it around the top of the wire that I've put in, and then in the other places, that's where I will attach, like there. So I space it every maybe 6 inches apart. I've finished all the fencing, and I've decided not to put an attachment on this closure because all I do is I just slide it to open the gate, and this particular gate has got a magnet on it, so it just self-closes. So pretty happy with that. And moving on to the next section, all of the posts are connected, all nice and firm, and then going down to the chicken mesh fencing, which goes all the way down to the bottom. And I like to leave some of the mesh to stick over at the bottom here, so that the dogs and the chickens can't dig to go underneath the fencing. So pretty happy with the result of that. And now the chickens are safe, particularly from my little dogs as well. Because the gate is a different colour, depending on how long I've got to keep this fence up, I might at a later stage paint everything black so that it's a uniform colour. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching.